Hello and welcome to the Large and Unnecessary First Player Token podcast.
Hello!
Yes, welcome.
That was a very feminine hello, Pawel.
I was trying, yes.
Pawel's back! Hey, Pawel's back.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Pawel. You've been on holiday.
Yes.
Where did you go?
I was highlanding.
Highlanding.
Yes.
What, you were chopping people's heads off?
No.
Because there can be only one.
And just being immortal.
There can be
Are
only
you?
one
I suppose you continue to Highland,
yeah.
just like Sean Connery Highlanded
Should we
all
be
over
scared?
the place.
Not yet.
So where did you go? East Highland way?
Indeed, I can at least partially recommend it.
Right. Only partially.
Yes, well, as long as it's not rainy and yeah.
In this country,
So
that's...
You've got
yeah.
enough food on you, then you're fine.
Right, cool.
Also, wear actual trekking boots as opposed to what I wore.
Well, what did you wear? Trainers?
Yes.
I did that. I did the West Island way in trainers. It was fine. It must just be you.
My feet weren't fine.
Get better trainers, man. That's what you want. Right.
I was
This is
thinking about it in my school shoes.
your school shoes.
Yeah.
Did you wear your funny little uniform?
No, I just had my school
I remember
shoes.
that funny little
I know, it was
uniform.
great.
That was a funny
I suppose
little uniform.
the only saving grace was that it was black. Well, not mainly black.
Yeah, but you had the little shorts though. You.
Aye, you had
That's what
the-
made me laugh.
Wear the shorts.
So, for those of you who don't
You never
know,
knew me when I had to wear the
this
shorts.
is our
I saw you
fashion
once.
seen
podcast.
pictures.
We don't really advertise it, but we meet here every 2 weeks to talk about fashion.
Yeah, that's
Of
true.
course, yeah.
But that's a different
we
podcast.
talk-
Actually. Oh no,
aye.
wait. This is the gaming one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Sorry. All right. This is episode 24 of the gaming podcast.
It's episode 24. We're out of sync.
Where are we're a wee bit weird here.
We've moved sideways.
Yeah. Well,
The whole
we'll have to
podcast
apologise
is
for that because
Phase shifted.
yeah. Well, last week we couldn't put an episode out for
Yeah.
a number of reasons, which we won't go into. One of which was that Pawel decided to go on holiday.
I
the main
take
reason.
blame.
Yeah. But yeah. Sorry about that.
No, consider us phase shifted until we finally get back in sync with the previous things.
I think this might make up for the few weeks we took off at Christmas.
Yeah.
We might have got back into sync now. I don't know.
Oh, maybe we could look into that. But until then, I'm considering myself phase shifted.
Okay, you do that, man.
yeah,
you do that. If it makes you happy.
Yeah, well,
Right.
I think we're going to give a subtitle to the podcast: the large and unnecessary first player token podcast. Port of call, Dimension X.
Is this the spin-off show?
Yeah.
This is where everything goes weird.
Well, it's just the kind of just the sort of retooling of the original show, just to kind of get people interested again.
It made me think of like the end of Battlestar Galactica. Just like putting some weirdly religious reference and somebody's dead that isn't dead, and all this. Sort of there we go. You've got a new podcast.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. I didn't give any names out.
President Baby Eater kills everybody. It's fine.
Yeah, it's good. Aye. Anyway,
It's good to be back.
let's talk about some games then.
Will we?
Aye, I think we should.
All right.
Let's start. I think that's why we're here.
Okay.
Pawel, we're going to let you talk first. We're going to start with video games. You haven't been here for a while.
I have been playing video games though.
You have been playing video games while you were on holiday.
Not necessarily, no. but
Man, you sent me a message saying that you were sitting playing stuff when you were
there is
camping.
There's a slight possibility that I may have played some Steam games whilst camping in the rain, surrounded by sheep.
That full camping experience, laptop with Steam on it.
Yes, well, it was running low on battery, so I did have my my remote camping experience.
Cool. Right, so... But you have been playing Mirror's Edge, haven't you?
I've been, among other things, yes. Mirror's Edge is a PS4 game apart.
Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
That's what it is, yes. Been playing it. That I've actually played quite some time ago. It's not a massive, huge game that you never finish, like a number of games nowadays.
Pretty much all of them.
Yeah, well, pretty much, yes.
That's a different conversation, though.
The original Mirror's Edge you could finish probably if you really tried in like half an hour. But it was a trial and error game, so you would instead end up repeating every mission like 4 or 5 times until you took this one crucial jump properly and managed to finish it. Mirror's Edge is a franchise nowadays, I suppose, so let's call it that. Is a game about parkouring on the roofs, because parkouring on the ground doesn't get you killed. So you choose the roofs and then you can fly.
Fly?
Well, if you misjump.
Oh, right.
I think that's called falling, Pawel.
Not the way I did it.
It's always an attempt at flying. When Pawel
There's a
does.
certain art in it when you start admiring the PS4 graphics, which this game is quite renowned for, I think, or if not renowned, then at least this is what will usually pull the rankings of Mirror's Edge up. Is the graphic design, is the style of the game really. And it's one of those games where you start looking around at pretty things and suddenly find yourself flying. I remember in the original Mirror's Edge that would end with this horrifying thud, whereas in this game you're flying, you can hear the very sort of mortified breathing as you fall to your death, and then there is this relaxing sound and an exhale, like it's almost like you're meditating.
What is going on?
Hi, so Mirror's Edge Catalyst is a game about running around on the roofs. It's a first-person game that is not a shooter, which is a big deal. In the original Mirror's Edge, in both games you play a character called Faith, who has lost her parents and decides to run on the roofs. In the original game, you could actually take somebody's weapon off them and start shooting them in the face until you run out of ammunition. Although the game would not recommend as such, but there was an option of completing it without shooting a single bullet, which is what some of the fans have done. I've played the original Mirror's Edge without ever shooting a weapon, and I think this is the way that game should have been played. The game designers, when they've decided to remake the original, just took the shooting entirely out of it. So it's a first-person shooter without shooting. And you run on the roofs. Beautiful game, taking place in a dystopian cyberpunk sort of world, or maybe just dystopian science fiction world. Skyscrapers everywhere, this sort of things.
Sort of corporate punk.
Oh, is this a new term?
Yeah, that's what I've just invented it now on this
well
podcast, putting us on the map with corporate punk.
TM.
Yeah.
You know what? That's right.
I don't know. I remember the setting of the first game.
You're surrounded by.
It's just all this kind of like
a fully functioning dystopian world where people are not even called people but employees. Sorry, I should say that compared to the original Mirror's Edge, they've taken the idea further.
Right.
So it's not just a recognizable world that you could find yourself in if you go to Canary Wharf or Manhattan, but rather a world where everybody's almost all the time in a way plugged into the network and this sort of things. You carry whatever just a lens, I suppose, in your eye that just gives you
augmented
network
reality.
Feed. Yes, that too. So citizens are not even citizens anymore. They're called employees. And corporations are everywhere, and there's no freedom and blah blah blah. But you're this free-spirited runner who delivers messages for the well, I can't say underworld if it's on the roof here. So overworld.
It's meant to be a metaphor, I think.
Well, okay. English is a difficult language. So yeah. Again. It was supposed to be, at first it was supposed to be a sequel, then somebody said it might just be a prequel. Devs kept saying it's not going to be a remake, it might be a reboot, so I have no idea what to call it. It's definitely not taking the first game into consideration and instead is just telling the story from the beginning in a slightly different way.
Well, that sounds like a reboot.
So it's basically just a well, not a retread.
It's a reword. It's a word that's got a re in it.
Yeah. They're doing it again.
So
they've done it again.
They have, and you know what? I'm actually quite happy about it. The original game barely sold a single copy, and flopped really hard, which was a bit unfair because it was a solid game, even if short, but so pretty and really exciting. Because nothing beats running from a squad of SWAT police officers shooting at you whilst you manage to reach that elevator and the doors close, and you can even you can still hear the bullets hitting the elevator's door, and the breathing of your character is slowly slowing down. The sort of things would keep you nicely immersed in the dynamics of the game. But it was bogged down by the trial and error thing, where it was essentially always what's it called? Railroading.
Yeah,
well, it was very sort of linear game.
It was always the same route.
Yeah.
You misstep or you misjump, you have to do the same thing again. Your save point might be quite far away. You have to repeat a number of jumps, things like this.
Yeah.
Mirror's Edge Catalyst is supposed to be semi-open world, and I think it actually works. You can take a lot of different approaches to your destination, how to reach it, and possibly how to fight through some of the obstacles. Lots of side missions you can take, whereas in the original game it was really just a story and nothing else. So they've managed, I think, to expand on the original concept, and they've definitely beefed up the world further. So well done on that. In my office I have at least 3 posters with Mirror's Edge.
So you're a fanboy?
Yes. From the aesthetic point of view, this game really stands out. From the gameplay point of view,
have they improved the gameplay? Really, would you say, from the original, or is it much the same in terms of? It was a problematic system, I thought, but I could see the value in doing it that way.
The movement works. Right. The idea in Mirror's Edge, which is difficult, I think, to manufacture correctly, is to force the player to actually run as opposed to just walk, as opposed to take it slowly, take it carefully. Yeah. If you run, then obviously it's much easier to make mistakes. So you have to develop this affinity to speed whilst still keeping focused on the route you have to take on all those rooftops. I think they've done it well. There is a mechanic called runner's vision in both Mirror's Edge games. In the original Mirror's Edge, it was this iconic color system where the entire city seems to be sort of glass bluish, and from time to time you see outstanding red elements in it. You know that this is your route. You only see it in red because you're a runner. You have this instinct that guides you. And in Mirror's Edge Catalyst, it's not an instinct anymore, but rather part of technology that you wear in your eye, specifically in this particular case. And runner's vision has been expanded. The options you can choose when you're playing the game. You can either disable runner's vision completely and then good luck, or you can have the original runner's vision, which is good enough to guide you, or you can have the hold your hand, follow the line runner's vision, which is just for very lazy people. Combat's been, I think, expanded nicely because it really relies on speed rather than just mindlessly bashing armed guards with fists and feet. Right. So you have what's called a momentum shield, and as long as you keep running, and by running I mean successfully, so you can't, stop because you've hit an obstacle, or if you've misjumped and haven't landed successfully, then your momentum is gone. And as long as if you don't have momentum on you, bullets will hit you. and you die fairly quickly. If you keep running around, keep dodging people, keep trying to get away from this. In this game, most of the time you really don't have to fight anybody, but you can, and it's good fun. So you do. So you stand in front of a camera, wait until it triggers some mobs, and then bash them in the face, which is what I do.
It's what life's all about.
I think it is. When you're a runner.
Oh, Pavel, what about the actual story? What's the deal with Faith? Why is she running about?
So, the first game aside, Faith is running mostly because she's a rebel. She's not adjusted to the perfectly cohesive society of employees. She also runs because she's lost her parents, who have been shot during an anti-corporation demonstrations. So basically, her parents believed in an ideal. She still sort of believes in it, although she's conflicted. But yeah, she just doesn't want to be part of the system as the other runners. But obviously, there is also an actual plot in the game. In this particular case, it's just a piece of technology that can reveal all the evil doings certain corporations are guilty of. And in cyberpunk games, it's usually about info that you have to
that's it.
Acquire
knowledge is power.
And reveal to the masses.
No.
Cool. So, are you actually finished this game?
I have one last mission to do, so instead of finishing the game, I'm just doing all the side missions I can.
Oh yeah.
And because in this
that
game,
old chestnut.
Exactly, and the multiplayer part, which was not present in the original game, but is in the Catalyst, allows players to create routes for other players to take, run through, and compete. And so, technically speaking, you could just play with that forever. Well, but I just find cameras, stand in front of them, and wait for the security guards.
So you do like? Are there different moves you can do in the sort of first person? Because I always find first person sort of anything other than shooting is weird.
It takes some time to get used to, and at first, when you start playing Mirror's Edge Catalyst, you think that this is way too easy. You take a jump, you kick someone in the face, they stumble, you punch them and they down. But before you know it, you get 4 enemies at you, properly armed, long arms or tasers, this sort of things. Okay. And it can become a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
And they keep respawning all the time anyway, so...
Oh, right. So if you can just infinitely set this camera off, then?
Yes.
you just find a camera and fight until you're happy.
That's how we play this game, yes.
Right, cool. So you're enjoying it, I take it?
Yeah, no, the thing is, and before Mirror's Edge Catalyst got released, the devs kept saying there would even be, I think, a TV show, which really surprised me. This game has a bit of following. It's popular in certain, I suppose, gamer circles, but it's never, reached the heights of AAA games. You can see that they've worked a lot on it, and again, just like in the first game, it's the level design, it's the aesthetics of the city, all the costumes they came up with. The world, in terms of its looks, just stands out, and I suppose the whole dystopia concept they came up with is original enough to entertain when you're playing the game. Whether it can actually spawn a successful franchise is another matter. Whether there will be a TV show about it and further games, I really don't know. People couldn't believe that there is another Mirror's Edge coming out when the first one flopped.
Yeah, I think there's been calls for a sequel for a while. There's been it's got a pretty hardcore following. I mean, I've known a few people that played it and sort of. Like, some really enjoyed it, some kind of had a go and just not really gotten into
exactly.
it.
Exactly, just doesn't click with quite a lot of people. But I think the biggest flaw of the original one, which was just redoing the same thing all over and over, and here has been healed because you can just turn left or right and do whatever you like.
That's because that was certainly my experience of the first game, was just repeating the same room and climbing through some building endlessly. I don't think I ever got through it. We got so far with it, and then just back to the checkpoint, which was just unaccountably far from
exactly
where you were trying to get to.
Okay, so that sums up your feelings then, Pawel.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think it does. I'm
You're
searching through my
surprised.
feelings. If I find something else, I'll let you know.
Excellent. Thanks, man. Right, well, that's Mirror's Edge Catalyst. That's by EA Dice, and it was released on Windows, PS4, Xbox One in June 2016.
Cool, quite
There
some
you
time
go.
ago
See,
already.
research and everything.
Very impressive.
Right, let's move on a bit then. I've been playing a game called Lost Sea, which is another roguelike. You know, I like these roguelikes.
You do enjoy
Roguelikes
a
and
roguelike,
survivals. Somehow I end up addicted to these games.
Chris
I mean,
is a
I
bit
am
of
the
a
target
rogue.
audience for this.
There's
So
also
it's-
a lot of them kicking about now that you can
There are.
get on.
There are some
Steam
good
and
ones.
The PlayStation Network and things.
Indeed. I mean, we always bring up like Rogue Legacy, which is just, I think that game is excellent.
Yeah.
But this is another roguelike, but it's a sort of top-down, like isometric 3D sort of style thing. You can move the camera around with one of the sticks with sort of cartoony graphics. Now, because it's a roguelike, it has those roguelike elements. You know, it's permadeath, randomly generated levels, that kind of thing. Now, the idea of this is that you're shipwrecked on the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
Okay, so you wake up on an island and then you go and batter your way through some enemies and stuff like that. Now, the idea is you find some guy who tells you some stuff about things, stuff to do with how the game works, but it's just, this is just stuff that they throw into the game just to get you moving through it. And the idea is that you've got to find tablets on these randomly generated islands.
It's a tablet.
Just bits of tablet.
Alright, just lying about.
It's a delicious
That'll
tablet.
be off by then.
Yeah, so like carved tablet things,
Right.
ritual tablets on these islands that have got runes and stuff on them. And they let you travel to other islands. So you've got a chain of islands in each zone. So you start off in the first zone, there'll be a chain of islands. Each of the tablets you find lets you move a certain distance. So you can go to a different island. If you can pick up multiple tablets, you can pick which island you want to go to because they have different difficulty levels.
You're making me really hungry, by the way.
Sorry, man. I'll stop saying tablet.
Guy, going to stop saying tablets.
And then at the end of each zone, there's a boss fight.
Right.
And you fight the boss. But I mean, one of the things about this game is that you need to have like followers in this game. You need to have crew. Okay, so you find crew on these randomly generated islands, and these crew have got different abilities.
Right.
And you want them because the abilities, like, they can unlock chests, they can build bridges. Some of them give you extra experience for killing monsters. Some of them let you do extra damage. And you can upgrade your character so that you can get like more crew, or you can carry more items. And they're fairly generic items and stuff that you get. I mean, it's stuff like bombs and health kits and that kind of thing. You can only carry one at the start of the game.
Yeah.
So, you pick your crew.
Yeah.
Well, you find your crew as you're going about. You can, if you find a better one, you can send the ones you've got away and take a new one with you. There's one really handy ability that they have, which is like if you die, they respawn you basically, but they only use it once. So it's pretty much the only way to avoid that permadeath.
Right. It's having.
And the monsters in it, there's actually, I think the monsters are one of the better things about the game. They're pretty varied, and you have to learn their attacks, you have to learn how they move and stuff like that, or they will just kill you.
Right.
You can't just go around hacking and slashing like you do in a lot of roguelikes, just run up and just start smacking things. Because if you do that, some of these monsters will just annihilate you. So you get sort of big things that'll, like, as soon as they see you, they'll smash the ground and everything in an area around it. Gets hurt and that kind of thing. Some of them just sprint straight at you. Some of them spawn multiple of themselves and then run at you in a group, like sort of surrounding you. Now, one of the things about this, so you've just got a basic sword, okay? It doesn't seem that you can upgrade this weapon. I don't know, I've not played that far through it, so maybe you can, but it's not as one of the upgrades listed that you can get. But the problem is that your crew follows you around really close, alright? Now, the crew are idiots. They're absolute idiots, alright? They're morons. They walk around so bloody close to you and they do nothing, okay? They don't fight, they don't do anything like that. They're only there to give you whatever bonus it is that they give, like they can unlock the chests or, you know, they're giving you extra damage and stuff. But the thing is, if you get attacked from behind by a monster and you turn around to hit them, you just hit the crew.
Oh no.
Well, the monsters attack the crew.
They attack the crew as well, so the crew have got their own health. And one of the abilities they do have is that some of them are tough, which means that it takes longer to kill them. But it's still really fucking annoying. It's just like, because they follow you so close, and you do things like you might accidentally hit a barrel, right? And a barrel might have poison in it, like poison or acid, whatever the hell it is. This barrel drops on the ground, and then you'll sort of go around it, and your crew will just walk over the top of it and just. You're just
fantastic.
Like, what the fuck are you doing? Now, I don't know if this is like...
It's a deliberate thing.
Yeah, if this... Was this deliberate? I don't know, because it feels like this was just something they just didn't bother fixing. Like...
Hey, ice crap.
I just... Like,
That'll be fine, doesn't matter.
At least give you some sort of ability to get them to stay away from you or something like that, you know, but there's nothing like that in the game. It's just like, they'll just blindly walk around. But one of the useful things about the crew is, like I say, they do nothing unless you tell them to go and open a chest or something. Is that when you find these tablets, sorry Euan, they have to carry them physically.
Yeah.
But you can make the crew take them instead of you, because if you're carrying a tablet around, you can do nothing else. You can't attack, you can't do anything. And you've got to get them back to the dock, basically. Okay, these tablets. Now, at the start of the game, that presents a bit of an issue when you've not got enough crew and you find a load of tablets running like lying about, because you can pick up a tablet and your crew member's already got a tablet. You're just like, well, there's more stuff on this island. I'm going to have to run all the way back to the dock and then come fucking back again. All right. That's a bit annoying. So one of the first upgrades I took was to get more crew members to follow me, because then
you just get more stuff back.
Because generally there's only 2 or 3 tablets on an island, so well, it has been in the first zone so far. So yeah, just finding a couple of tablets, just let them carry them, and then I can go and kill everything on the island and get the last tablet if there's a third one. There are 2 different ways of upgrading. You've got your XP that you get from monsters, but you get gold that you find in crates and barrels and stuff like that. Now, the XP lets you upgrade your character. The gold lets you upgrade your ship, but that's really just another way of upgrading your character, it seems. Because it's really just like more abstract things, like it reveals where a tablet is on the island if you can buy this upgrade or something like that, or it reveals where crew members are. The personal character upgrades are more like, you know, carrying more crew, more items, giving you different types of attack, giving you a roll or something like that, so you can roll out the way monsters. And that's pretty much like, that's what the game is. You're just kind of running about trying to find all this stuff on this island, and it's reasonably fun, I suppose. It's not the greatest game I've ever played, but it's good. I mean, it's a good way of just spending some time. I think there are better roguelikes out there, but what it does have going for it is that sort of cartoony graphics that they've got, those are actually pretty nice,
right?
And they're really colourful, and like all the sort of models, the animations and stuff, all really, really good. And the music in it is excellent. Like, I absolutely love the music in it. There's some sort of like, I don't know how you would describe it. It's kind of sort of like epic adventure-y type music, but because it's in the Bermuda Triangle, you get like steel drums and stuff like that and going on, and it's really good. Like, whoever made that music did a really good job of that. The sound effects are pretty generic. They're pretty just standard, just smack, bang, ouch, you know, that kind of thing.
Wilhelm scream.
Yeah. Now, when you die, I've only died twice in this game. One was right at the very beginning of the game, so I didn't know what was going on. But one was like when I was halfway through the first zone, and it seems that some stuff does carry over to your next playthrough, and I think it's your gold and your experience. I don't know if anything else does. The current playthrough.
It's supposed to in roguelikes, yeah?
It is supposed to. Some roguelikes do, some roguelikes don't.
No. Every roguelike will at least unlock something as you play.
Not the most hardcore original ones, man.
But if a roguelike doesn't change between plays, then.
But no, the idea of roguelike is it does change between plays because it's randomly generated. But I'm talking about the original spirit of roguelikes. It was more like you didn't carry anything over in original roguelikes. When you were dead, you were dead. And
We've come to a point in society where people need some kind of reward.
Yeah,
so
people need their handheld.
Play these things.
It's time for the commentary again.
Yeah.
The challenge isn't enough for these people. One other thing I will say is I've played through the first zone. I'm into the second zone now.
Right.
The first boss fight was one of the easiest boss fights I've ever had in a game. It was just stupid.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was one of those like standard things. Oh, he's throwing things from the sky. You can see the shadow where it's going to land. I'll stand here then. Oh, he's jumped out. I'll hit him. That's it. It's like, but I'm assuming that because it's a roguelike, it's going to just get more and more difficult as it goes on. But that first boss fight was just laughable, like laughable.
A lot of them can be in some of those kind of games, like where you've got like a set thing pattern, a thing that it's going to do, and they can get more complicated. But generally, to start you off, it'll either be ridiculously easy or a little bit too hard.
Yeah. I mean, this one was on the ridiculously easy scale. Like I say, it was easier than some of the actual monsters.
All right.
I took no damage in that boss fight, basically. So it was
well done.
Yeah, thanks, man. But it was easily done. That's the thing I'm saying. I'm not saying that's because I'm amazing. I'm just saying because it was fucking easy.
We still think you're amazing.
I was just blowing smoke up your arse.
I know you were, and I hate you for it.
But nobody ever admits to that, eh? People always get accused of it, but nobody ever comes out and says, I'm blowing smoke up your arse, mate.
You just make it worse, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, I mean, the game, like I say, it's a decent game, and I probably will play it a bit more because I do kind of fall into obsessions with these games, but I don't think it's going to hold my attention for as long as...
It's the sort of thing I would enjoy for an afternoon.
Yeah. It's not going to hold my attention for as long as something like Rogue Legacy did. But yeah, it's a good game. It's a good game. Not the greatest game, but it's good. Any questions?
I think that sounds pretty
I think you've given us a pretty...
See, I always get a bit worried when you don't ask me any questions, because then it makes me think, am I boring them, or...
we never care.
Or have I covered everything?
There's no point getting worked up about it.
I'm getting really worked up now.
I'm just wondering why or how are tablets involved in communication?
They're not. They're supposed to be navigation charts.
Thank you very
much. That's
much.
what they're
For some
really
reason,
supposed to be.
Chiseled on stone tablets.
Yes, so basically you pick them up and then it tells you where the next islands are.
Fair enough.
But you can upgrade your ship so that you get, like, the tablets can you roll a random number when you go to the map screen, and that tells you how far you can move. And each tablet you get lets you move a different number, and you can upgrade them so that you can force them to roll different numbers so that they're not all rolling ones or fours, so you're not just going to the same island. It gives you a choice. It was one of the first things I did, actually. Because like I say, it's random on the map about which islands are easy, which are medium, which are hard. So I've just been sticking to the easy and medium ones at the moment. I don't really fancy going to any hard islands yet. But yeah, that's Lost Sea, which came out fairly recently, which was a few weeks ago, on the PS4, Xbox One, and Steam. And it's by East Asia Soft, who made another game that I've played, and I can't remember what it is.
Perhaps.
Rainbow Moon, which was shit. Don't play it.
Fair enough. I won't bother.
The title is intriguing.
Have you been playing that on the PS4 then, or PC?
No, I've been playing it on the PC, but if you're going to play it on the PC, play it with a controller.
Yeah.
Do not use the keyboard because it is completely set up for a controller.
Right.
And it's a pain in the arse to try and play with the keyboard. I did try it at first, and for some reason it's like the J and the K keys spin the camera, and that's just annoying.
Jesus.
And it spins it so slowly as well, so you're like sitting waiting for the camera to move. Okay, next up, Pawel, you're trying to speak again, I think.
My God, that's just so exciting.
I've just not seen you for so long.
It's just because I've been highlanding, I had to play so many games.
So bored of the Scottish countryside.
No, there's sheep. I mean, honestly.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know what you were doing with those sheep.
I actually was rammed by one.
You were rammed with it, right?
Almost.
Oh.
Was this near Aberdeen by any chance?
No.
Right, okay.
Fort William.
You think it was getting a bit frisky?
It was possibly, aye.
I'm pretty sure those activities take place everywhere, not just in Aberdeen.
Okay, so let's get off of that topic and move on to...
Homeworld, Deserts of Karak.
Oh, good pronunciation there.
Homeworld, Deserts of Karak is a prequel, which I've only learned when I started playing the game. I've never played the original Homeworld. Admittedly, I have no idea why and how, because that game is fairly popular, or used to be fairly popular with the RTS crowd. And I count myself in it. You know how you always
You're
get
one of the crowd.
Yeah, I
That elite
think
group
so.
of people, RTSers.
I've never
RTSers.
met a member of the RTS crowd before.
But
now.
you've got a rogueliker over there, yeah?
I suppose.
You get obsessed with roguelikes for no apparent reason.
Oh yeah.
It's just the
You just
type of
become
game that
sucked into them.
speaks to you somehow. Or you
Right,
just.
yeah.
I think in the modern era, with all those consoles around and so many games, just especially first-person, third-person games, various RPGs, which I quite enjoy. Whenever I lay my hands on an RTS, I'm just reminded that this is probably my favorite genre. So yeah, there I go, looking through Steam stuff, finding a nice bargain, buying things and just trying them out. And I remember years ago, and probably over a decade ago, Homeworld was popular. There was plenty of noise about it. I think it was supposed to be the first fully three-dimensional RTS where you could rotate camera just all around you because it takes place in space. But I never played it back then. But in any case, I've got the remastered trilogy now waiting for me, and I've started playing from Homeworld Deserts of Karak, which is the prequel to it. And certain, I suppose, characteristics of it may sound familiar to somebody who played the original Homeworld. So it's an RTS where you have your mobile home base in a way.
Okay.
In the original Homeworld, there could have been some mothership in the deserts of Karak, which take place on the deserts.
So
Very
you're not
sandy.
in space.
No, because you've not left
Well, then
your planet
you're
yet.
still in your. This is.
You were born on the planet,
I see.
and you're surrounded by various tribes that are quite religiously minded and convinced that staying on the planet is in fact the way to be.
Okay.
But your particular tribe, sorry, your Sithid, has organised an expedition to find an ancient relic deep in the desert of Karak. Your carrier is your mothership. When I say carrier, it actually looks like an airplane carrier that the United States
Okay.
could set out to conquer the seven seas. But yours is obviously rolling on the deserts
Oh, it doesn't like float or anything.
of Karak. No. Your technology. See, this game is very, or is trying to be, and I think it's actually succeeding at that. Is being hard, yeah, hard as F. When it's not just, I don't know, let's float about.
Yeah.
If you have your fast attack vehicles, it's going to be actual dune buggies with cannons on them. And there's gonna be tribes around more technologically advanced than you, but your technology looks very believable. You're gonna have your proper munitions. You're gonna have wheels everywhere, or whatever tanks roll on.
Yeah.
Conveyor belts,
Yeah.
whatever they called.
Tank things.
The tank things.
Tracks.
Yes.
Tractors.
Those. So your carrier is pretty much the heart of the expedition, and you've also got one fairly durable scientific vessel where sort of the main character of the story is based in and drives around. Those are massive vehicles, by the way. They look like, I mean, what looks like a dune buggy can probably house 100 people, really.
Okay.
And even in the game's terminology, they're still called ships, not just, I don't know, cars or tanks. They're ships. But everything takes place in the desert of Karak. Now, this game really impressed me with its story. I am a bit of a sucker for a good story.
Really, I never knew that.
Well, this was the thing I was going to add, because obviously you have gone with a later released game, but gone to chronologically the start of the story.
Indeed.
And I know you do like your following their sort of narratives and everything like that, but yeah, it sounds very much like the Deserts of it's quite a different experience to, even though you've still got a lot of the elements that the original Homeworld has, where you've got your sort of large
producing units,
base,
just
which is like a
units,
mobile. It's a mobile base.
Your carrier is quite mobile. Yes, you can upgrade it. And obviously, like in any RTS, there is resource gathering. Although, in this game, all you're gathering really is the ancient and bits of ancient ruins and crashed spaceships on the deserts of Karak. I suppose the experience might be a little bit different, but definitely I'm assuming at least the atmosphere, the mood, the style of the game is similar. I think Homeworld stands out at least partially because its lore, its mythology, its factions are Middle East influenced.
Okay.
Most science fiction and in fact fantasy will be based on whatever Western cultures. You'll see it when you play D&D without thinking about it, and then when you grab the Legend of Five Rings, you suddenly realize that this is a fantasy about samurai, so it's clearly different. So just as fantasy is based in the Western sort of aesthetics, most of science fiction will be as well. This one has a very Middle East feel to it. The deserts of Karak definitely, but I believe there is similar tropes in the original space-based Homeworld games, where you get very religiously minded sort of jihad-like tribes pursuing you, and all sorts of prophecies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think from what I remember playing the original Homeworld, there's a lot of kind of like slightly sort of spiritual, weird, esoteric elements that, even though it's like quite a sort of like hard sci-fi,
exactly,
it still has this.
But it is a hard sci-fi.
To,
the way you can, how you hear chatter and the comms when even if it's not your units you're commanding at the moment. You can make this chatter sound a bit cartoony-like, and if you've ever played, I don't know, the original Warcraft games or original Starcraft games, they had plenty of fantasy in them. This game is actually sounding quite military-like. But where I was going to... I remember! I was going to say that when I play RTSs, I don't really play multiplayer, because I most of the time don't really play PvP games. So I play RTSs for the campaigns, so for the stories. And any mission in an RTS campaign will always be scripted in one way or another. And usually, regardless of which game you pick up, I've picked up a good RTS the other day called the Grey Goo. And you could clearly see that the entire campaign is based on unlocking a unit per mission until you have your whole fleet for about 3 missions and you're done with the campaign and you move on. Same thing you could see in StarCraft or in Warcraft. For half a game you're learning how to play it, and then you play another couple of missions and you're done with it. Most missions in RTS campaigns will be scripted at least a little bit, which helps in telling the story. The missions in Deserts of Karak are really quite a lot scripted, but I think it actually serves a great purpose because this game excels at telling a story. And I've enjoyed it quite a lot. You get attached to your, I suppose, people you never even see because all you see are those massive vehicles. But there is plenty of tension. There is plenty of actual, plot twists and a couple of proper cliffhangers. So well done on that. I've nearly finished the prequel now, and I'm really looking forward to the remastered trilogy.
Yeah, when was the last? So when was Homeworld 3 released then?
It was still a good many years ago.
Okay, so they're all quite old.
Yeah, the entire trilogy is fairly old, and they've only remastered it really recently.
I can tell you, the original Homeworld was released in 1999.
Yeah.
Homeworld Cataclysm came out in 2000, and Homeworld 2 came out in 2003. According to this, there isn't a Homeworld 3.
Well, but you've just mentioned 3 games, so that's
Yeah,
probably
3
that.
games.
So it's not a trilogy and the prequel. I thought you were talking about a whole.
Sorry, as in you said Homeworld Cataclysm, so
Yeah, so
that
it's a
probably
separate
counts
game,
as
yeah.
the second game, and then Homeworld 2 is Homeworld 3. That's that makes sense.
Essentially.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that sort of thing goes on. You know,
I think there was back in those days. In
Yeah,
particular.
well, Resident Evil kind of set a bit of a weird trend for stuff like that. But yeah, the only thing I would say about you sort of moving on to Homeworld is that, like, I played it when I was quite young. It came out in 1999, so I don't really remember a huge amount about the story in that. So I don't know how prominent that'll be in it. I mean, it was from what you're saying about the deserts of Karak. I got in there first.
Damn it!
I was just going to clear my throat.
Euan, don't steal his thunder.
Right. What I got from playing the deserts of Karak. Oh, now you're just showing off.
You want a drink, Pawel?
We're good.
Like, Homeworld, the original, is sort of a much more basic game, and you pretty much it's always just like one faction against another, kind of, just set in space, and you're just sending.
I mean, it's
ships
an
back and forth.
RTS, so when it comes to that, it's always just exchange of fire and building new units. What happens sort of in between of missions, or how the missions are constructed to showcase what your actual goal is, I suppose, is what matters. So in Deserts of Karak, it's definitely an expedition set to uncover an ancient relic deep in the enemy territory, and you can feel you're isolated. You can feel you're surrounded by high tech. You begin to understand why your enemy has access to it and things like this.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the original Homeworld has to offer, but I do believe it used to be immensely popular.
Well, no, I really enjoyed it. I remember it just being quite a pretty game as well. Just kind of the way that it's just your carriers sort of just sitting there and hanging in space and producing little units out of it. They would come out of the kit, there'd be a little bit, and they would come out of there. And everything would just nicely glide around in space, and then you could group them all together. You could have your fleet going through and send them off. In
regards to that, it's a very similar experience in the desert.
Oh, that's fair enough, because that was certainly what I most sort of remember from Homeworld. It had that it's quite nice look to it, and sort of interesting way you would sort of set up your battle lines and things like that. Well, very different to doing something like Command and Conquer, where you're building a base and you're sort of defending
exactly.
that and things like that.
Most such games follow the same routine of building and expanding a base, which is stationary, defending it, attacking the enemy.
So the deserts
is following, I think, the original Homeworld quite. Sorry, did I miss that? No way. I was also going to say that not sure about the original Homeworld, but definitely the prequel has quite an amazing soundtrack. Again, with clearly noticeable and in fact omnipresent Middle East influences, but it really works well. The science fiction sort of feel, along with your Arabic tunes. So well done, whoever composed that. And thank you very much.
Cool.
that was a good way to end that. Very, very nice.
Yeah, you're very contemplative in these reviews. I was a bit worried the first one was going to be Mirror's Edge, Contemplations of Suicide, for a while, but you kind of got past the...
Mirror's Edge is the contemplation of how beautiful this constrictive world of consumerism can be, whereas when you choose to be a rebel, you can look at it from afar and through glass.
And you can also contemplate on the breathing when people fall off high buildings.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, Pawel, the guy that did the music in Homeworld Deserts of
Karak
it's the same guy that did the music in Cataclysm and Homeworld 2. It's the same
Fantastic.
guy.
Okay, so
when I've been listening to this for the past few days, and YouTube has been finding nice OST collections from the original Homeworld as well. So
that's a guy called Paul Ruske or Ruske. I don't know how you.
Well done, Paul Ruske.
Paul Rusk.
Right, so that's Homeworld, Deserts of
Karak.
by Blackbird Interactive and Gearbox Software. It came out the beginning of this year, 2016, in January, on Windows and OS X.
Superb game. If you like it, it's as different from Total War Warhammer as possible, but
still somehow in that same genre.
Well, it's an RTS as well, but I think this game clearly shows what an RTS can be without the excessive need to release.
Oh, here we go.
No, I promised myself I'm not gonna rage
today.
No nerd rage today.
We keep saying, Pawel, you nerds have only got yourselves to blame.
The call of the Beast Man for Total War is
that's the mantra of our
releasing in a couple
podcast,
days.
Okay, right, Euan. What have you been dabbling with?
Not a lot. To be honest, I'm still playing Dragon Quest 9. I can't put it down.
Yeah, I have noticed that.
Yeah,
I did find you lying in bed playing it.
I was just like,
watching Deep Space Nine while playing Dragon Quest.
Yeah, that's pretty much my life these days. Really. Why do anything else?
This is my life now.
Yes. No, that's been about it, and been dabbling a bit of. I haven't played Rocket League for a while, so you kind of got me in. But we played a bit of drunk Rocket League at the weekend.
Yeah, drunken Rocket League was good.
We really just tore into some teams there as well. We just.
So does this game play different when you're under influence?
We play differently. The game's the same.
It doesn't affect the game. I don't think the game's supposed to know that you're drunk.
I suppose the controller does.
There'd be an interesting setting for a game, just like you could input that you're drunk and it just changes the whole control setup.
Well, there's some games where you when you get drunk and your screen goes all fuzzy.
Well, yeah. Well, we had to go at some ranking matches and actually demolished a team while messaging them at the same time saying, "We're drunk."
Yeah, we're so drunk.
We're beating you,
and we're beating you.
So whoever that was, apologies.
I'm not apologising.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing, the ranking thing. I mean, you've not really played much of the ranking.
No, I think I might have just placed at the end of the session that we played.
Because I play a lot of ranking now. In fact, it's pretty much the only thing I do. I play a lot of doubles with my brother. Now, my brother's kind of hit or miss when he plays. Sorry if you're listening, but you are. And so we're not making progress in that. So I've been playing a lot of solo standard as well, which is, it's solo standards when you play. You can't take a team of people in with you. You play 3-on-3 on your basically, and you can't take friends in with you. It's just you and teamed up with two random people. Now, I'm in the prospect division still. I will admit that. All right, but the thing is, I'm trying not to make that like that's my fault. Because when you're in that prospect thing, you get paired up with like such random assortments of people, including people that are unranked. Okay, so while you're in the prospect thing, you're still getting paired up with people that are unranked because they're still trying to get their ranking. Now that just means that you get such random things, and sometimes you'll win like 6 games in a row because you get paired up with a couple of guys that are pretty good. Yeah. All right, and then you'll lose 7 or 8 games in a row because you're paired up with complete muppets that just don't know what's going on, and it's it's not their fault. Yeah. Okay, but this is just how the ranking system works. So I just find it's really frustrating. I'm finding it so difficult to just get even into the top part of the prospect division, into the whatever it is, the elite prospect part, which from there you can move up into the next level, which is like the bronze rankings or whatever.
Do more drunken weekends then.
Well, that's what. Maybe it should. Maybe I should just stick to playing it drunk.
We'll sit and pile through the rankings.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of frustrating me, but I constantly play it. Do you mean? How many times do you walk in and I'm just sitting playing Rocket League? That's just what I do when I've got a spare.
Just on the sofa turned round and slumped in an armchair playing Rocket League.
But still absolutely loving Rocket League.
Yeah.
I'm definitely correct about it being Game of the Year last year.
Oh yeah, it's Game of the Year this year.
It's just Game of the Year.
Eternal Game of the Year from now on. With tenure.
Yep. Right, anyway, that's probably going to wrap up our video games bit.
Talked enough about that.
I think so, so we'll have a break. I'm going to have a cup of tea.
Alright.
When we come back, we're going to talk about some, not just board games, tabletop games, I think we're going to call it.
We're finally...
a wee hint there about what's coming.
Finally going to get into it.
Excitement!
So, yeah, we'll do some tabletop games. Be back in a minute. And we are back. Time for the tabletop section.
Yay!
Get up on your table.
Everybody's favourite section, unless you like the video game section.
Well,
You're allowed to like both.
Well, which one do you prefer?
I prefer RPGs.
Yes, you do, and we're gonna let you talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, that's the stressful part. I never get to speak about RPGs here. I'm not prepared.
Well, unless we spend an hour talking about Star Wars Imperial Assault,
which I'm sure we can.
we probably could. Now, yeah, so we're going to talk about Star Wars Imperial Assault. It's a game that we have talked about before,
yeah.
but we did play...
Hopefully we're not going to spend an hour on it if we've...
Nah, but we did. We played it again at the weekend there. We've started a new campaign with some more reliable people.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get this one finished.
So we'll actually get through this one now, I think. So it was me and you, Euan, and a couple of other guys, a couple of friends of ours. And yeah, we started a new campaign, and now this is a game which, as we talked about before, I remember saying it was based on the Descent rules. So Descent's a different board game, which is a fantasy dungeon crawling game. Now, they've taken the rules for that and sort of changed them slightly and put it into the Star Wars universe, and it works so well. Like, it works really well. I much prefer this to Descent. Now, the idea in Imperial Assault is that one player goes the Imperials, and everybody else goes some sort of rebel hero. And they're not the rebel heroes, like, they're not Luke Skywalker, they're not Han Solo.
They've made up a bunch of characters. We talked about them before, I think.
That's
I
right,
was
yeah.
Sniper Goat.
Yeah, you were Sniper Goat. I don't know, which race was he? What was the actual race?
No idea what
Who
he
knows?
was meant to be.
He looks like a goat and
was
he
a
has a sniper
goat.
rifle.
Yeah.
Alright.
That's all he was.
And there's a Wookiee that you can be. There's Tentacle Woman.
Tentacle woman who's
the
sort of
Jedi.
like trainee Jedi.
You've got your generic rebel military man.
Yep.
And a couple of other guys. You've got an older man who's meant to be a sort of commander.
Yeah. There's a sort of woman Han Solo.
Women smuggler. Yeah.
Smuggler pilot.
So kind of familiar characters.
Yeah.
So and you just play through some missions. Now, what happens in it is that you start off, if you're playing the campaign, you play the first mission. It's always the same mission, and depending on the outcome of that mission, that'll change what the next story mission is. So if the rebels win that, you play one mission. If the Imperial wins that mission, you play a different mission next. Which is pretty cool. It's a good system. It works. It actually has a story going through it, depending on what happens. And I, like I say, much prefer it to Descent.
Yeah. It's a much sort of clearer mechanic to the fighting and everything like that. There's Descent had some problems that we've probably talked about.
Yeah,
in this,
Descent suffered from but just bloating basically.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. There is an actual term for that. When basically as you go further through the campaign in Descent, things just get so out of hand. People become overpowered.
Aye, it's difficult to even work out what they're doing.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I mean, even I found from the first game of Descent, there was a little bit of something to it. It was like, I don't think things are quite well balanced in this.
Yeah.
It did feel a bit clunky. This doesn't at all.
It feels quite balanced, this game. I feel like they've put a lot more work into this Star Wars game, and to be fair, we've never played Descent second edition.
So
okay, and I think that's much more in line with this, with Imperial Assault.
Yeah.
But Descent first edition is what we played, and that's the one that suffered from the problems. Now, I remember the first time we played Descent that I was like, this is fucking brilliant, okay? And that was before they put a campaign mode into it and everything. It was just you played sort of single quests. You went through a dungeon, and then if you wanted to play another quest, you reset, everybody resets, and you go back to what you might want to call level 1 heroes and just play a game.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, because like when I think about that, it's like, the first time you play a really good video game, it's never quite the same if you go back and play it again. You don't get that same feeling. That's how I feel about Descent. It's like the first time I played Descent, I was just like, this is absolutely brilliant. Like, this is really, really good. But now I couldn't go back and play it now. Just knowing what I know about it.
I guess so, yeah.
You don't get that same feeling from it anymore. It just feels a bit like, this is just going through the motions a bit. Now, what I like about Imperial Assault in particular, right, I always seem to be the bad guys whenever we play these games. I'm quite happy to do that role.
Going the dungeon master.
Yeah, because that's generally because I own the games, which means I've read the rules, which means people look to me to run the game, basically. And that's kind of what
anyone
happens.
else reading the
So
dungeon master's booklet.
what I like about this is that it's not just, as we chatted about when we were coming back from this game, it's not just a case of like the dungeon master, if you will, the Imperial player, is just throwing guys onto the board just for them to be killed.
No, it's a lot more involved the way that you were sort of playing the game. I mean, there's similar things. You've got your threat level, and then you spend that on units. But the way that kind of works, even with the units and how you're sort of deploying them, and the ones you've got, it's different how you would have done it, and it feels a bit more like you're playing against this rather than just sort of being this abstract kind of just spirit of the dungeon.
Yeah, pretty much. The spirit of the dungeon. Yeah, just like, here's some monsters. I'm going to give birth to these monsters in this place. Yeah.
There's a trap you might expect.
Well, there's a lot of things like, because in Imperial Assault, when you're playing through a mission, certain things, like the heroes might trigger certain things, so they might open a door, or they'll hit a console or something like that. And generally, like when something like that happens, the Imperial player can sometimes have a choice to make at that point. So he doesn't just, it isn't just told what happens. It's like you have a choice about what might happen here. So in that very last quest we played there, there was a point where one of you opened a door, and I had 4 choices, I think it was, for what happened when this door opened. And one of them was to, like, there's a chance that I could stun the player that opened the door, which like would totally limit what they could do.
But basically ended the...
I could move all the droids on the board, or I could, I think possibly the door blows up or something like that. It was like I had choices that I could make. And this was like when you did that, or when it was Gav actually that opened the door. When he did that thing, it was like I looked at my choices and decided actually I could totally stop them from winning the game right now just by stunning his character. Because it was do or die for you guys at that point. You had to get him in that door basically. So I stunned him. And there was a chance, it was like a 50-50 chance that he wasn't going to get stunned, but he did, because his character was particularly crap at that skill check, which is part of the reason why I decided to do that. Because my other choice would have been to move the probe droids in that were sitting right next to him and just try and kill him outright, but that was more risky for me. So I made the right choice because I ended up winning the mission for that, which then affects which mission you play next. And that's just like the overall feeling of that for the Imperial player is much, much better.
Like, you've got a stake in how the campaign goes.
I'm so much more involved in this. Like when we played a campaign of Descent, because you've played a campaign of Descent, and I've played a campaign of Descent, but we didn't play together. And I was the bad guy in that campaign of Descent, and I just felt like there was no point in me even turning up, because it was just the case of I was spawning monsters on the board. By the time it was my turn, they were all dead.
I'm trying to remember who was doing it. I think it was Dan was doing it in our. We had one down in Leeds. We were doing a campaign, and but it got to a point where it was a bit of a struggle to get him to actually come out, because he was just like, "What? I can't be bothered." It was there was just no interest for him as well. We were all sort of poring over our characters, going, "Oh, look what I can do! Look what I can do!"
Exactly.
And he's sitting there like just throwing in a bunch of monsters. It's I mean, they did try to give you an element of that in the campaign mode where you were, there was a chance you could fail. I think.
There was,
but I think you basically had to, as the dungeon master, just destroy them quite early on, before they could actually really
power up,
upgrade to a point that they were unbeatable. But there was a lot of daft stuff. Like we're still trying to work out about clarifying what the surges do. I'm pretty certain that surges stacked in the original Descent.
I think they did,
because there wouldn't have been any point to the number of surges you ended up getting. Because it was ridiculous.
Because you rolled a stupid amount of surges.
I mean, I got set up, I think, with this wizard, where basically I got some special ability which allowed you to fire from another person, like your magic shot of whatever kind, from another person's character. So you could basically have your tank at the front and be firing from him at things he could see. You could be hiding around a corner, basically, as long as you were within a certain number of squares from him. And I had automatically 10 surges, which was basically, I was just converting to damage. That was before I'd even rolled the ridiculous number of dice I had. It was completely insane. There was no way anything could beat us at that point.
And that's why Descent was broken. It was just a broken game. And like I say, it was good that first few times you play it, and then it just becomes, nah. What's the point?
I'd be interested to play the second edition.
I think
now
we
that
should.
We've sort of seen that and kind of identified that with the Star Wars one, just because I think what Descent's strength was just the number of characters.
Yeah.
All the sort of various different abilities that they had. I mean, that I think that's what kept us coming back for so long and trying different things with it.
Yep.
But yeah.
So how did you feel about it? Because we played 3 missions. So we started off a new campaign and played the first 3 missions. Including a side quest.
Played of it and we've really gotten into a campaign now.
And how do you feel about it as a player, as playing one of the heroes?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough, and it's kind of coordinating and getting. There's a lot of luck involved in kind of if the tactic, if the sort of what you're going for is if you're going to be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
Sort of short route. You're so far we've had, I think the longest, most of them are 6 rounds. The last one we did had 7 rounds to complete the objectives that we had, and you really struggled. In the first one we did it because I'd played it before, and I kind of knew, and I basically said to the guys, look, we just need to go here, we need to get this done, just batter in here, you're going to get hit, you're going to take... I mean, that's part of the player experience, is that you're going to get absolutely smashed, and you have to basically go on, because you're the rebels, you're the Star Wars, you're kind of like this scrappy force that just has to go on suicide run and just like hope that they can hold out as long as they can.
Aye.
And it really forces you to play it that way, because there's time constraints. You're generally up against a lot of figures coming at you. So yeah, it's quite tough.
Aye, and I think the time constraint thing is one of the more important things in this, because that wasn't in Descent.
No, not at all. You just muck about.
And the whole thing was that if you died in Descent, you basically just, the evil guy got some threat, which he could spend on stuff, on new monsters and things like that. But then the hero just respawned, and came back into the fight, and that just happened over and over and over again.
Just kept on doing it until.
And it was a bit silly.
Yeah.
Because an Imperial Assault is different. If you get killed, you don't remove your figure from the map, you just flip your character card over and you become wounded. So your character becomes slightly worse, but you go back up to full health and stuff like that, and if you get killed again, that's your character's out of that quest, out of that mission. Yeah. But he comes back for the next mission. So
the idea of them sort of being wounded, it plays into the tactic for the sort of the rebels, because you're always sort of betting on at least one of your characters. Most of the fail conditions are all of you getting wounded, because that means you all flee basically. But you're kind of betting on one of your characters. So you we had the Wookiee there, and he's kind of just charge in. So you're going to expect him to basically at some point probably get wounded, but you want him to hold out, take out as many things as you can, so you can complete the objectives in the time you've got. It really puts you up against it to try and get this stuff done. I mean, we were really unlucky in that last sort of
You were
mission,
unlucky
because
in the
we had
last
3
quest,
consoles to get to. The way it worked out with our characters as well is each one of us was suited to, because essentially for each console you were going to do a different skill check, and there's 3 skill checks essentially for each the characters can do, and you have a set number of dice that you can roll for each one. My sort of sniper goat was quite varied, but there was one. I think the mechanical sort of engineering ones, there was 3 dice you could roll, or the other ones it was 2.
But the Wookiee,
there was one of his checks that was like you would only roll 1 dice, so he basically there was no way he could have passed any of like that particular one.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
that was
the one he found first. It was right, go and get that door open, go do that, and that was the result. So we were basically humped from the start of that one. Really, we gave a good go of it, and we just killed a load of stuff and did what we could.
Yeah. And I quite like from the Imperial player's perspective, the variation and the bad guys that I can stick out on the board, because you've got your stormtroopers and stuff like that, your sort of basic figures, but you also get some sort of like animal creatures and stuff. So you had a Trandoshan hunter who basically had a shotgun, and was just at the very start of a mission where you were trying to rescue Luke Skywalker, you just got blasted to pieces by these Trandoshan hunters.
That was horrendous.
Who, as long as you were within 3 spaces of them, they would just tear you to pieces. But there was also things like the Nexus, the little lizard, or the big lizard sort of things that were they could just pounce about the place.
Yeah.
And I was really loving that variation that I was getting, because I was causing you I was doing so much harassment with those figures in particular.
Yeah, because you could just sort of throw them in.
and just like pounce about, block off doorways, just do whatever I needed to do to stop you. Because quite a lot of what the Imperial player does is just trying to slow the game down a bit, trying to stop you from getting places, just so that the rounds will tick away while you try and deal with the whatever stormtroopers or anything that have filled the corridor with.
See, the thing, you can't really afford to sort of regroup and sort of plan out your next attack. Go as you can't. I mean, in that one, the last one we played, there was no way we could have done it as a group and gone to each thing. There was just not a chance of us. I mean, we kind of went on a gamble where it's like, okay, well, we'll send one of us here and then two of us can go at this one because it's close, and it just happened to be the wrong. Yeah,
it didn't work out. I think if you'd properly split up, if you went three ways, you might have had a chance.
Because we could have just gone. Yeah.
But I think just because you were unlucky that the Wookiee got that one console that he couldn't do.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. But I mean, that's just how it shakes out. That's the thing. I think the game is sort of geared towards you playing multiple campaigns, which is maybe not something I would expect myself to do, but
I can see myself doing that actually. There are a lot of expansions for this game now. And I'm quite happy to pick them up. If we play through this campaign and we still want to go with it, I'm quite happy to just buy some of these expansions and just chuck them in. Even if we have to restart the campaign again, but there's new missions and everything in these things, so
that's what was
they'll totally mix it up a bit.
With the commitment level with Descent of kind of having to go into, I mean, even like the first one where it was just a kind of a series of just dungeons that had been pre-designed.
Yeah,
I mean, just to play through that was quite a lot of work. Whereas I think this is a lot more. You can play through a campaign quite quickly.
Yeah,
but you're not going to do it in an afternoon. You're maybe going to have to commit to it a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's a bit more lightweight, I guess.
But the other thing about the campaign does have a decent length to it as well, because the Descent campaign just went on far too long. We spent weeks and weeks and weeks playing through this campaign. And it just getting more and more bloated and silly when we played Descent. But this, an Imperial Assault, there's definitely, it just, there's a sheet that you can photocopy that just says, first mission you play is a story mission, then you play a side mission, then you play a story mission, then you play a side mission, maybe another story mission. The Imperial player can mix it up a bit by throwing in forced quests and stuff like that you have to then go and do, otherwise you get a massive penalty if you don't. But it has a sort of definite end, because there's only like 10 slots or something like that you can play.
And that's including best like side missions and things.
Yeah, it's including the side missions. I think the forced missions, that might be additional ones, but I mean, the Imperial player isn't going to be throwing a lot of those in, because he has to spend influence and stuff to do that.
10 missions is pretty.
That's a fairly decent thing, yeah. Pavel, you have briefly played this game.
I've played the first mission of probably the original campaign.
Yeah.
As the tentacle lady, and I found it quite enjoyable, yeah.
Anything in particular? Do you just like the Star Wars thing?
No, well, yes. Well, I do play board games. I do it for the actual theme. So finally, we were playing something science fiction as opposed to
the wood chopping simulators.
Those, I don't mind those. No, it's fine. But if I get a nice Star Wars game, it's all the better. I think one particular factor that I enjoyed was 4 dudes trying to play against one person.
Yeah.
Which is what some role-playing gamers, I suppose, might be used to, but is not my role-playing experience as such. So it was a novelty for me to actually have to cooperate with a large number of players against someone who could, play strategically against the 4 of us.
Yeah,
because we were crap at coordinating things.
But do you feel like, because I think this is one of the things about this game, is it, do you feel like that the Imperial player, despite the Imperial player playing on their own, that they always have the upper hand?
Oh, definitely. Like you've got. I mean, even just what you're saying there about you being able to just block doorways, throw things about, and you can get a lot of units in there in some of the missions. I mean, I remember one of them. I think we played another one from an earlier attempt at a campaign, and we ended up getting this really big mission that was just like absolutely nails for what we were sort of expected
Yeah,
to do there.
that was a side quest, yeah.
Side quest, yeah, where we had to
When Darth Vader suddenly turned up.
Aye.
Oh, nice.
Mad. But not from that, the one we just played, but even for like a previous one, there was one we had to rescue some Wookiee.
You had to rescue a Wookiee,
It was the sort of personal quest for that character, but that was, that had one of those lizard things in it as well.
Yeah.
That one I remember just being absolutely impossible, because it had these like drones that were basically, it was part of the mission design. It wasn't even like a unit you could control. It was basically, if we were in certain areas, we would just get shot. We would just have lasers fired at us that would take automatic damage off us.
Oh yeah, I
things
remember
like
that now. That was hilarious.
Insane. Yeah.
It was hilarious for me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it'll be like if the sort of level up, because you sort of get maybe more threat or whatever depending on what we do, but you know, our characters will be improving. I mean, I've been looking at some of the upgrades, so I don't know if that will balance it out a bit.
But that's another thing where like the upgrade system in this is much more streamlined.
Oh yeah,
and compared to
I really like it.
There's a lot less stuff.
Yeah.
To be honest, like compared to what there was in Descent in terms of like the items you can buy, the upgrades you can take.
There's a decent. I found there was a decent bit of choice there, and the stuff kind of made sense for the characters.
Yeah, and that's it though. That's what I mean. Where it's totally streamlined and it makes sense, and you're not just completely. You're not putting so many different factors into the game that it's basically you can't test it. You can't test every single thing, because that was the problem with Descent, was the fact that there was so much stuff there. How do you test that? Like, you can't just test every outcome.
Irresponsibly throwing things into a game like that.
Because I'm sure, like I mentioned the last time we talked about this, was that in the Descent game that we played, the Ur campaign, Ben had a character who was basically the tank, and I basically couldn't hit him. It was virtually impossible for me to hit him, and I worked out that the only way I could win the campaign was to turn my final boss, who was a dragon, from a fire dragon into an ice dragon, which I could do, and then freeze Ben's armour and then shatter it. Alright, and it was the only way that I could win the campaign, because I had to kill all the characters. Okay, but doing that, like, I'd worked out that the percentage chance of me doing that, it was like 1% or something, so it was just like, why am I even playing? Like, I'm just silly. So yeah, Imperial Assault, I'm really looking forward to continuing this.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good.
I think we're going to play a game later this week, possibly.
Hopefully,
so that should be good. And just for the record, Descent First Edition, don't play that.
That's done.
If you want to play the fantasy thing, maybe pick up Second Edition. We can't really say anything about it, but from what I've heard, it is much more streamlined and much more in line with Imperial
If they've
Assault.
taken into account the issues with the original Descent, I can't see it being a bad game.
Nah.
There was a lot that was good about Descent. Like I say, the characters were good. They kind of there was some interesting sort of monsters and things like that. You had your Soysies. I hope they've kept Soysies in the Second Edition. I really hope they haven't learned how to print R's properly in the Second Edition.
The R's don't look like I's, so that sorcerers are now Soysies.
Soysies and Diagons.
Diagons, yes. Okay, so yeah, Imperial Assault. Let's see. Really looking forward to playing that again. Okay, Pawel, finally, after weeks and months and years, we're going to let you talk about some RPG.
Don't bottle it now.
Wow, that is rare.
You're in the spotlight. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Well, I did talk about RPGs before, a long time ago, and from time to time I maybe managed to squeeze in a reference or two.
I think we managed a few when Lance was on, because he was obviously.
Well,
yeah, he was an RPG fan.
Yeah.
That was nice, yes. Lance, I miss you. But, when you talk about Imperial Assault, you're talking about a game that has, or Descent for that matter, that has a very basic RPG experience in it. Any game you play as a single character can be seen as it, especially when there is multiple missions that you go through as the same or perhaps even evolving character. That's what RPG in essence is supposed to be based on, the backbone of it. It's just, a regular RPG is so much more than that, but somewhere deep in it is what you find. So I was a bit amused actually listening to you guys and all the imbalance in it. Because I'm gonna moan now about too much balance in a game.
Too much balance.
Oh, way too
How
much.
can there be too much balance?
There you go.
This should be interesting.
Yeah. So, plenty of games will have that, but I find it, as I go through a lot of different RPG books, that you need an old and well-developed franchise to suffer from it. And as I've never ever in my 20-odd years of doing RPGs touched AD&D, or D&D for that matter, I may have played a couple of clones and stuff like this, so I know what it's about, but I've never actually properly played that. I'm gonna talk about Shadowrun 5th edition in this particular case, because that at least I do own and play from time to time. Shadowrun is just like AD&D is one of the very oldest RPG franchises out there. 5th edition is something you don't find too often on RPG bookshelves. And as you go through RPG book editions, you obviously find flaws in in whatever mechanics the game has, and try to fix them. As you run games in Shadowrun for years or decades, you realize how certain players can attempt to master or cheat the system, to cheese it, I believe is the word, yes? To cheese it. And if you're a responsible, game developer, you're trying to block that. So there comes your 3rd or 4th edition and stuff like this. So by the time you get Shadowrun the 5th edition, the system and the mechanics are so well packaged against any attempts to exploit them that, in my opinion, they just stifle the game as such. Now, this probably comes to the fact that, and I may have mentioned that when I spoke about RPGs before, is that I don't really use a lot of mechanics when I play RPGs. An RPG game as narration, atmosphere, scene, story, immersion, but maybe not necessarily a lot of dice rolls and tables and other shit.
Sorry? Say that again?
Yes. I said sheet, character sheet.
Oh no, you didn't.
Your stats can and should be measured, is what I believe. That's what RPG is for. You've got your character sheet and plenty of digits on it. Although I myself quite prefer the old World of Darkness aesthetics of a character sheet, which don't even do it with numbers, but rather just with colored orbs, I suppose. Dots you fill in. From a game master's perspective, it's absolutely priceless to grab a character sheet and quickly see a trait or a skill without having to actually read numbers. It's like status bars, yeah? Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. So your character sheet measures your character, and fair enough, every RPG will need that. But in my opinion, this is as far as it should go. Now, I don't run a lot of games with multiple players in them nowadays, so it's probably more comfortable for me this way. I can imagine how in certain groups players might want to compete with each other, and this is where mechanics are fairly useful, because otherwise one of the players might feel a little bit, I suppose, cheated or treated unfairly. But it all boils down to the fact that, and I see that obviously clearly in Descent or in Imperial Assault, as you said, and probably in a number of other very old games such as AD&D, where the Dungeon Master, as they're called, is perceived as an adversary, which is absolutely against what I believe a game master is.
Yeah, well, I totally understand that, because we've been playing Pathfinder, and we're trying to convince one particular member of the group that I am not working against him.
you have to commit to the idea that
your characters are your actors, and your
Yes.
your game master is your director slash script writer.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much that. Now, that thing aside, there's gonna be balancing problems in any game, as you said. In Descent, you had big differences in what certain characters could do or could not, or how they could affect the world. Any game will attempt to calculate such differences and hopefully level them up. And you grab, I don't know, Fading Suns, second edition, and start making... In Fading Suns, sorry, quick digression. In Fading Suns, you can make a character that belongs to a number of fairly humanoid races, or you can make what's called a Vorox, which is pretty much a 4-meter tall humanoid cat-like creature. But then, as you start spending your whatever character points to make such character, the game mechanics will attempt to limit what you can get, so that other players that are playing, normal mere puny humans don't feel mistreated or less powerful. And you're gonna see the same things in a lot of other games. So you grab your Shadowrun game, where you can play. Sorry, I should mention probably for those of you who don't know it, that Shadowrun is an iconic combination of a cyberpunk trope and a fantasy trope. So those are two things that should never, ever, ever work together, but for some bizarre reason work together really well in this particular setting.
Well, and based on the video game versions, which, the original SNES one was one of my favourite games as a kid. Yeah. It
Absolutely.
Really does work.
Absolutely. And there's a reason why after... You know what? I got Cyberpunk 2020, 2020, a classic, when I was in early high school, and I didn't even move without the book with me. I would carry it with me. Loved it. You know what? Nobody even knows about this game nowadays. Apart from some. Thank you very much.
We were just talking about it the other night there, weren't we?
Yeah, we're looking to possibly get a campaign on the go.
Oh,
using the original rules as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
56k modems, all that stuff, man.
Yes.
Oh, that pleases me. Thank you. Well, I'm actually
discs.
quite looking forward to Cyberpunk 2077, made by CD Projekt. That's going to be a video game. However, the creator of the original Cyberpunk 2020 is going to be releasing a tabletop RPG upgrade along with that video game, and he's also working with CD Projekt on the video game.
Oh, cool.
So this is very, very exciting. Nice. And I'm always up for anything cyberpunk related. To the point of Shadowrun. Shadowrun is the only, I feel, cyberpunk game out there that has retained the spirit of the original cyberpunk. Cyberpunk genre as such has evolved along with technology nowadays. There isn't that many games around, but whenever you actually do lay your eyes or hands on them, they will feel more like what I would call a near science fiction genre, or whatever other futurism. But cyberpunk has always been a very peculiar mixture.
Well, it's something kind of like rooted
it's got
in
a bit. It should have a bit of noir in it, a little bit of your punk guitarist rebellion and things like this.
Slightly idiosyncratic technology.
And Shadowrun maybe because it's still the same world as you push your game through various editions, the meta plot in the setting will slowly advance, and certain things will be changing in the world, but not that much. So Shadowrun stayed close to its roots. So story-wise, I cannot fail Shadowrun, and I love it. But you cannot force, for the sake of balance, and for the sake of, I suppose I should say, just mechanics that make every single player in the group happy that nobody else next to them is less or more powerful than they are. You can't, forsake an actual common sense in the game. If one player creates a whatever, I don't know, lame dwarf, and the other character creates a huge troll, and then the game mechanics will pretty much nerf the troll, who's, I don't know, 10 times as heavy as that dwarf, and their whatever strength characteristics will differ by 2. Just because the mechanics won't allow it to be any different. This is the result, in my opinion, of decades of nerfing and upgrading and balancing and making sure that everybody's happy and nobody is mistreated.
Well, yeah.
You get your spell book or whatever other chapter about magic, and suddenly every single spell will have a combat function, because because this is the only thing you do in Shadowrun, apparently. And they will all be nearly identical from a mathematical perspective. You're gonna have an RPG experience that's set in these boundaries of in this particular game of a run. In Shadowrun, you're supposed to be pretty much
mercenaries.
Well,
Kinda.
Almost criminals.
Yeah.
Running illegal operations outside of the scope of the law. Mostly just raiding various corporate facilities and stealing data or hard cash or whatever magical treasures and so forth. And yeah, but you know what? In every setting, and this is probably the reason why people actually pick up RPGs, you can do just about whatever you please, and this is what RPGs should be showing and teaching gamers. And instead, if you grab the 5th edition, the game pretty much tells you what your session should be like, gives you stages of a run, examples of complications and obstacles, and before you know it, the only thing you have out of this game is an anatomy of a shadow, anatomy of a run, and nothing else. Which to me is pretty much a single player. Sorry, a single, yeah,
might as well be a
multiplayer first-person shooter in your imagination and nothing else. So I grab the 2nd edition of Shadowrun. And you get your rich setting, and to be fair, there isn't many settings richer than that. When you get 2 distinctively, different concepts for a fictional world, and you merge them. So you grab your 2nd edition, and it's full of ideas, full of concepts and possibilities. You grab your 5th edition, and it's a game that's been played for 20 years. People know how to play it. People have been doing it for so long. You pick up your job, you do it, you get your loot, you spend millions on upgrades, and you start another run. It hurts to see a game that could be so much more become so much less simply because people have been squeezing it and strangling it with just the mechanics.
But right, so is this, because from what I've heard, I mean, I don't play a lot of RPGs, but I do read about them, okay? And it just seems that like the biggest complaints that people have is just people just min-maxing, okay? So you turn up for a group, a random group, like a lot of people do this, they'll turn up for a random group, to play a role-playing game, a bunch of people have never met before, and there's always that guy, there's always somebody there who's just min-maxing his character. Do you feel that that's just a lot of pressure from all the complaints that people get, because quite a lot of RPGs are moving in that direction from what I've heard, and that they're just kind of trying to balance the whole thing out so nobody can be too powerful,
I think I'm
nobody
being a little bit of an elitist snob here, because I didn't want to say that. My relationship with RPGs has evolved long past that, and I'm blessed with an RPG environment where I don't have to worry about such things. But I suppose in your sort of basic RPG experience, with all the newbies and all the silliness that you can expect from it, you're gonna need some rules to put certain types of people in place. However, okay, fair enough. Every RPG has a section, as in every RPG book has a section in it that is clearly designed to help the person that's running the game keep those people in check.
Yeah.
But don't let it, squeeze out all the juice out of the game.
Yeah, right.
Is what I think.
I mean, it sounds almost like it's there to hold the hand of games masters, in the sense that, like, a good games master should be able to keep a person in check if they're
Well, you can
doing
throw anything
stupid
at them
things.
if
You should be able to,
want
like, if you're running the game, you should be able to just say, no, you're not doing that.
Well, yeah,
Which
exactly.
I have done.
several times.
Yeah.
So basically, what I'm trying to say is, instead of altering the world itself and just removing certain fun factors from the gameplay as such, let's say from the mechanics, just so that people can't make stupid decisions or stupid characters, game masters should probably remember about what I still clearly remember in the Cyberpunk line of books. There were actual expansions solely devoted to just telling game master how to run sessions.
Yeah.
Just that. Just a guide how to do it. Not ideas what to run, and not secrets of the world. There were separate books for that, but I remember a fantastic book that would just simply tell you, you know what, I have an idea how to deal with this type of a player. I have an idea how to balance such group, or how to make them believe in a certain,
Yeah. I've got a Pathfinder book that's basically that. It's the Game Mastery Guide, which basically tells you how to deal with certain player personalities, but also how to, like, ideas to put into your games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, you need rules just to moderate a game rather than run it.
Yeah.
And you don't need to moderate the game, you need to moderate your players. You do
True.
it.
Very
you even
true.
do it in board games.
Yeah.
You get players that will try to cheat, try to moan, try to ruin other people's experience.
It's mainly people that try and interpret the rules in a very particular way.
I think
Those
I know.
are
To their advantage.
You're probably referring to someone here.
Yeah, but that's that guy, isn't it? So-
Yes,
Yeah.
there's
And that's-
always
and
And, and this
that.
person that we constantly refer to as that guy. Like,
I mean,
I'm sure they're listening to us now fondly.
I think the thing about the Dungeons and Dragons, like, I can't quite understand the idea of people randomly joining. I mean, I guess you can play more sort of streamlined, quicker campaigns of these things, but like, it seems the kind of thing that you want to go in with a group of people. You at least have some idea of where they're, what their expectations of the game are, and because that's certainly something we've learned from Pathfinder. Anyway, is everybody's got a very different idea of how they're. We've kind of all persevered at that, whereas I think in Dungeons and Dragons, there's probably people do have set kind of, they've come in with an idea of how they want to play it.
well, yeah, but I mean, I think we were kind of lucky in the fact that we were all kind of interested in playing the game.
Yeah.
I just think that there are a lot of people out there that just have, like, that are interested in playing RPGs but don't know anybody that wants to, and they will just join random groups and stuff like that. You do see it a lot. You see, like, posters up in gaming places and stuff like that looking for players,
Yeah.
But the problem is, I've heard so many horror stories, just like on forums and the internet and stuff
thing
like
I'd be
that, just
really
about,
worried
like,
about,
random groups that have met up and the stuff that's happened. And it just seems like it's asking for trouble.
It's something you always consider, actually, even with board gaming, when you sort of kind of have somebody you don't know that well, that you're
think
going
the
to get
worst-
involved in a board gaming session. You're like, is this a good idea?
Yeah.
Should I invite this person into this? Because they might be an absolute nightmare,
The worst thing that can happen is you're just not going to have fun, and you'll never come back.
And you'll learn that experience. You'll know not to do it again.
And you become a very bitter individual.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to happen at some point, but not just yet.
So, Pavel, is this specifically the 5th edition of Shadowrun
I
that
don't
you
think
are
so.
moaning about?
I think this is me moaning about a certain way some of the RPG mechanics are constricting games.
That's the thing. I mean, what would you say specifically about the 5th edition of Shadowrun? Like, have you played it?
A lot.
Yeah, and you, like, what's your what do you think you're sort of losing out on there when you, apart from you mentioned that you're kind of, it's very much focused on just doing the runs and how to sort of do it. Is there sort of character stuff that you're missing? Is there?
Well, let me try and guess this then.
Interpret what
I'm
you
trying to guess at what he's actually getting at here. Is that I think he feels like the actual atmosphere of the game and the feel of the game and stuff has been kind of squashed a bit, trying to balance these players out more.
Yeah. In this case, I'm going to say the realism of the game, perhaps, and all the possibilities the game should offer, is getting trimmed for the sake of that one guy.
Yeah.
What have you been unable to do that you wanted to do? Because it sounds like the complaint of someone who's been stopped from doing something really cool.
Oh no! This is just me reading a book. When it comes to actually playing these games, we are way past mechanics telling us what to do.
I suppose, You make of it what you will.
Once you're mature enough in an RPG field, you just you trust your player. The player trusts your game master, and you just do what you find your fun in. So I myself, I would quite enjoy getting an actual Shadowrun book in my hand that's not just about a very repetitive experience of we have a Mr. Johnson, he wants us to go someplace, we prepare for it, we go there, we do what he asked us for, we go back to our hideout and we drink. In most cases, you find that RPG actually gets real fun when you get to this drinking moment, when your characters actually start having their own lives and their own agendas, and not just a mission that the game master came up with. So I'd like Faster. Hello, hi. Please release an expansion to Shadowrun 5th edition that actually deals in normal life. Your setting is really rich. Please don't take away from it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, well, we've been talking about Shadowrun, which is by FASA, as you say, and Catalyst Game Labs.
Indeed.
Hopefully they'll hear that.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure
listen to
they're
your
listening
complaints.
to us closely just now.
Oh, the 5th edition came out in 2013.
Indeed.
Right.
Just a couple of additional books for now.
That's actually fairly recent for an RPG.
And just as any RPGs nowadays, it's a beautiful book. And this is actually a nice part of the whole RPG experience nowadays. Back in the day, you would get a black and white book with hardly anything in it, and nowadays, a lot of text but no pictures as such. Nowadays, these books will really stimulate your imagination. And any other RPGs you pick up on Kickstarters, and there's plenty of Kickstarters going on just now with nice, juicy RPGs. They will always be full color, lots of illustrations and stuff like that. Lovely.
Cool. Right, okay, well, that brings the show to an end.
So I have more RPG stuff to talk about, man.
Let's do our internets. If you want to email us, so you can email us anything at all. If you want questions that you want us to answer on the show, if you just want to make a statement, if you disagree with something we've said,
if you've got abuse for us, we can take it.
If you think that Pawel's totally wrong about his complaints about Shadowrun and balancing and stuff,
Come ahead.
come ahead. You can send us an email at firstplayertoken@gmail.com. So that's FIRST, player token, one word.
Mm-hmm.
We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. Now that's at 1ST player token.
Once player token.
We're on SoundCloud. That's where all our episodes live. You can also get us on iTunes. You subscribe there. We have a YouTube channel which has not been updated in a while, but hopefully we're going to change that. Excuse me. My Twitch thing is unnecessary, Chris. If you want to find me on Twitch, I'm there, but I haven't played any games in ages. I will do. And we are part of the Podnose network. So if you want to go to www.podnose.com, you can find a whole range of podcasts there that you can listen to. We are on there as well.
Our entire library there is...
it's all there. Yep. So you can listen on that website if you prefer to. So, episode 24, done.
Quality.
Done.
Awesome.
Pawel got some RPG in.
Score.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So we'll be back.
A bit different.
in a couple of weeks' time. Our anniversary episode will be coming up soon. I don't know if it's the next episode or it's the one after, but we'll maybe have something different for that.
Yeah, we're looking to have a very special episode.
Yeah, we're going to have some ideas for that. We're going to sit and chat about that now, I think,
All
actually.
right,
We're going to have a band meeting.
Alright, great.
So make sure that you
I want my
that
tea.
you're present. You want your tea?
Aye.
Nah, we're having a meeting, mate.
I'm on my tea.
Right, well, thanks for listening, people, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye!
See ya.
Bye.